You can use the Premiere Pro titler to create shapes, be they standard shapes like squares, rectangles, circles, and ellipses, or freeform shapes that you can make using the pen tool. I'm going to show you both methods in this lesson. Go to Working Files and double-click on Projects and go on down to 1608, Creating Shapes. Let's make a new title. Go down to the New Item button and click on Title. Let's name it Shapes. Here are the shape tools over here. You've got a rectangle, rounded corner rectangle, a clipped corner, meaning it's got straight lines along the corner, a rounded rectangle, meaning it doesn't have rounded corners, it's like a flat ellipse, wedge, arc, ellipse, and a line. The way you create a shape is simply by selecting one of these and then clicking and dragging. When you make it, it'll use this default style. Just click here in the upper left-hand corner and drag down. And wherever you start clicking, that'll be where the corner is. And undo that by pressing Ctrl or Command-Z. If I start down here and drag up, then the starting point will be down here. Same routine, upper right-hand corner. You get the message, I think. There you go. If you want to make a square, then you need to do what they call constraining the proportions. You do that with a keyboard shortcut of Shift. So I start drawing here just by dragging like that. I got my rectangle. I press the Shift key, and bam, it becomes a square. I let go of the Shift key. It goes back to being a rectangle. Shift key, and I'll let go of the mouse, and I've got a square. Same thing is true when you use the ellipse tool. I'll undo that. Here's the ellipse. You can make, obviously, these egg-shaped things, these little ovals. But the moment I press the Shift key, bam, it becomes a circle. If you want to make it exact like that, that's how you do it. Let go of the mouse button, and we've got a circle. Another little keyboard shortcut trick is to have it center on something. I'm going to turn on the eyeball here and go a little bit to the right. There we go. I want to center right there on Luis's head and make an oval there. So I got the ellipse tool. And if I click here and start dragging, it's going to pull away from there. Like the corner, if you want to call it that, of the circle is up here. Doesn't really work. But you can center on something by holding down the Alt key in Windows, the Option key in Mac. And now when I click, that'll be the center, and it'll pull from the center. Wherever I do this, it'll pull from the center. Flipping it around, it'll still pull from the center, like that. So that's how you center something. I'll delete that. There are other shapes here too. We can take a look at them. This is the clipped corner. Has those sharp edges like that. This is the rounded corner. And the rounded corner has a little feature over here called fillet size. That's the size of the corner. You can bring it out like that. It's a fillet. Who knew that was called a fillet, right? This is the rounded rectangle. It's just smooth around the edge there. Delete that. And we've got the wedge, which looks for all the world like a triangle. And we've got the arc, like so. Now the line has some interesting properties. If I just click and start moving it around, there's the line. If I want to have the line go exactly straight across the page like that, or straight up and down, or at a 45-degree angle, something like that, then I can use the Shift key with it as well. Holding on the Shift key, now it's going to constrain it to this 90-degree angle. Down here, 135, 180. I'm holding on the Shift key, and it kind of jumps when I get to the next point there. So if you want a straight line that's absolutely flat across the page like that, hold on the Shift key as you make it. We'll make the line like that and pull it across. And then the line can have width, like so. The line can also have different kinds of ends, what they call a cap type. You can say square, so it just cuts off at the end like that. Or you can be round, and we'll start making it larger. And you can see that it's round there. I change over to square again. There it is. Notice it goes right to the edge of the bounding box. I go to but. It goes in from the bounding box to the edges where it would round off. So round is like that, and square is like that. I'm going to delete that. Shapes can also take on styles. So let's go back, let's say, to the ellipse. Drag an ellipse on here. If I open up this and go down through the styles, you'll see that it'll take on styles just as text would take on styles. And so shapes are great for making little graphics when you want to have a super and you want to put a super on the bottom, put someone's name on top of it. You can create these graphics using these lovely presets or do your own adjustments to their properties, the same way you would with text. Now here's the pen tool. You can make freeform shapes with the pen tool. If I select the pen tool, I just click here once, that makes a vertex. Click someplace else, that connects it as a line. Another place, another line, another place, another line, like that. If I want to close this shape, and I can, I hover back toward the beginning. My cursor is going to have a little circle next to it right there. See that? That means you're going to close it now. If I take the pen tool again now that we're done, I can click on it and drag it around. Like so. We saw handles when we worked with the Type on a Path tool, but now we're not seeing handles because we didn't drag as we clicked here. That's just a bunch of lines, which is fine, but you can fill this if you want. So you see the graphic type, it's a closed Bezier. Make it a filled Bezier, and now it's all filled like that, which is what you do when you make a mask, typically. And we're going to make a mask here in a second. I'm going to get rid of this by clicking on it and then deleting it. Let's try the more commonly used pen approach here. That is, when you make a vertex, you click and drag to give it handles. So got that. I'm going to click and drag. I don't click and let go. I click and drag and then I let go of the mouse. I'm going to click and drag again. That helps define the shape. I can drag this way or I can drag that way. Like that. And even after I'm done dragging, I can come back here and fix this again later. If I want to make kind of an S curve, then I click over here and drag again like so. And if I'm done, if I just want to have these lines like this, I just need to click over here someplace, and that now it stops the drawing process. If I kept on clicking, I'd keep on adding more points, more vertices. Now with the bounding box active, I can change the overall size of this by pulling the bounding box up and down, moving it around. I can rotate it, things like that. But if I want to work on the vertices, I need to go over and select the pen tool, and come inside here, and then those vertices become active. I can click on one. You do need to be careful here. When you're moving around with the pen tool, you might miss something and have a little X show up there. That X is then going to select a whole new curve, so let's undo that. If I click here, nothing's going to happen because the pen tool doesn't know what's there. You need to tell it something's there by clicking now. Now you can have the pen tool again. Now you see the vertices again. I can drag them like this. Once I click on a vertex, then the handles come on. I click on this vertex here, for example, its handles come on, and the next vertex's handles come on like that are connected like so. This thing coming out goes to this handle there. This handle over here controls this curve, as do these handles. This handle over here does not control this curve, so let's do that. We want to control this curve on the inside like that. Change the shape of the curve by pulling it up and down. Very much like working with the motion inside the program monitor. If you want to get rid of a vertex, you can click on this little minus over here and hover, and that'll get rid of that vertex. Want to add a vertex, you click on the plus sign. Just hover over here any place, and you're going to add a vertex to that spot and drag it around. I clicked again, so it added another vertex. Now if I want to stop adding vertexes, I go back to using the pen tool like that. Now there's this guy here, that's changing the anchor point. I click on that. They call these anchor points or vertices. If I want to change that, right now it's this Bezier curve. If I want to change that, I click on it, but then it becomes a different kind of anchor point. We'll show you how it behaves now. It's now linear going in like that. Little curve coming out because of this curve here, but I changed it from a Bezier curve to linear. Change it back. If I click and drag, then I'll make these handles again. If I want to break one of the handles, I can click on that, and it'll break that one handle. I can control one handle only. Again, similar to working with motion inside the program monitor. Let's make a shape that specifically matches someone underneath it so we can make a mask. So I'll just undo this or just delete this. There we go. Move the current time indicator over a little bit so we can see Louise here. I want to make a mask around here. Now I can just do an oval. Kind of have the oval start right about here. Drag it out like that. If I want to reposition it, I can just reposition it by moving it around. But I want you to use the pen tool here to kind of approximate her outline so we can have the mask more or less match her. So I'm going to click on this and delete it. Use the pen tool instead. Now I'm going to click a little bit outside here and click and drag. Click and drag. Click and drag like that. Kind of make a simple, not too exacting outline around here with curves in it. There you go. When I get back to the beginning, I get a little circle over the vertex, meaning if you click here, you're going to close it. I need to change this from closed Bezier to filled Bezier. There we go. And if you want to really fine-tune it, you can lower the opacity a bit so you can sort of see what you're doing if you want to move it around or whatever. But you can always adjust this later on the timeline or in the sequence. So back to 100%. There you go. So that's how I use the pen tool to create a mask. But let's make a track matte, because I know track mattes are kind of one of those techniques that if you don't do them a couple times, you forget how to do it. So I'm going to show you the track matte here again. Let's close that. I want to put a track matte above Louise so we can highlight her a little bit and kind of tone down the room behind her. So I'm going to go get this Shapes title. I'm going to put it 2 tracks above her. So we want to put a copy of her clip between her. Take this and put it above her like that. Pull it out for the whole length like that. You can see that's going to cover up pretty well. I want to duplicate this video clip. Hold on the Alt or the Option key and just lift it up like that. Let go of the mouse button, and now we've duplicated it. I want to apply the Track Matte key to this upper clip. We're going to attach this graphic to that clip using the Track Matte key. Just as a reminder how that works. Go to Effects, got my color correction group here. You can find the track matte key in the keying effects, but we've got it down here. I'm going to double click to add it to that clip that's currently active. Now it's there. Click on it. Go to Effect Controls. We're going to say, okay, the track matte is on track 3 here. On 3. I'm going to change this to Luma because we're going to give it a little bit of a soft edge. Now I want to take this bottom clip. We're going to tone it down a bit here, so I'm going to put a Luma curve on it, double clicking it, tone things down a touch. Now you begin to see the outline that we created for her. Tone it down some more like that, just to make sure it's pretty obvious. I'll make it a little blurry too while we're at it. So you go to Gaussian Blur, Video Effects, Blur and Sharpen, Gaussian Blur, double click on that, and blur it up a bit. Now see how hard edge that is there? We're going to change that by applying a blur. Go back up here, apply a blur to the graphic itself, blur the graphic, like so, here like that. I'm going to repeat edge pixels, and that's how that works. If you don't really see it that well, let's take that gray solid and put it in there as well. Just slide it in underneath here, move over so you can see it like that. And if you're still not convinced, we can go back to the shapes here. I'll take the type tool here, click here like this, make a big font, let's say, really big. Click on the type tool, and we click inside there to make sure it's blinking. And we'll click away, close that. Now she shows up like that, her name shows up and it's all blurred. Turn off the blur, like that. See how that works? Now we use the Gaussian blur to blur this mask, which I think works really well. Some people use a drop shadow by putting the drop shadow on here, using the shadow only, and then making the shadow soft. But the Gaussian blur is easier. The drop shadow takes a few more steps. So I think Gaussian blur is the way to go here in case you hear people telling you to use drop shadow. Gaussian blur saves a couple of steps and works just as well. So that's how you can create shapes inside the Premiere Pro Titler. Not only the sort of standard shapes, but use the pen tool to create custom shapes.